Hey everybody, Sean Gavin, RHG Products. I want to take a couple minutes and talk to you guys about hoses for your water fed systems. Lately there's been a lot of discussion about not being able to get enough volume of water through a pole to run the rinse bars. Now rinse bars have become popular in the last year or so for people looking to rinse hydrophobic glass a lot faster, or folks doing large commercial panes and wanting to be able to rinse those much quicker. And as a result, they've also been integrated into a lot of brushes that we produce, and those brushes then end up in residential guys' hands, and they're looking for them to produce the water volume that they would want on their job sites as well. But there are some limiting factors, and as we dig into the issues that people are having, we're finding out that a lot of times they're very easy to rectify. We just did a bucket test here at our facility. We have a 3.5 gallon bucket. Our water flow here is pretty good, our gallons per minute, and our pressure at this building is actually really poor. It's 30 psi. So that actually allows us to test flow pretty well because of the fact that the pressure is so low. Rather than a building with really high pressure, you kind of get these false situations where you get a lot of pressure at the brush, yet the volume is low. So we have the opposite here. Our volume is pretty good, but our pressure is low. So we hooked up 50 feet of our 3/8 pure water line to that water supply, and we're able to fill a 3.5 gallon bucket in 2 minutes. So that's about 1.5 gallons or so per minute of volume. Again, 30 psi. When we hooked up the same distance of pole hose tubing to that same water supply, 50 feet, this is a 3/16 ID rather than a 3/8. It took around 9 minutes to fill that same bucket. So that's around 1/3 of a gallon a minute. So same water supply, same pressure, very poor volume, okay? So when we see people connecting long runs of pole tubing to the output of their RODI systems, it's a little bit concerning because you're not going to get the volume of water out of that system that you need to produce the water at the brush 30, 40, 50 feet up from where you're working, because obviously at that point now you're fighting gravity as well. So what will help a lot of the folks that are having flow issues is if you run a 3/8 line from your water system to your pole hose. Now what that does is it obviously delivers a lot more volume from your water system to your pole. When it hits your pole hose, it's a bit like sticking the thumb over the end of the garden hose, and it increases the pressure at the pole hose from the 3/8 line to the 3/16 ID line, and creates more pressure at the brush. Now, the rinse bars themselves do not require very much volume or pressure to operate. We just tested here out of the 50 feet of hose a rinse bar. So running at about 1/3 of a gallon a minute and 30 psi, we were able to run this, and the flow of the water coming off the rinse bar was about 18 inches to 24 inches. So way more water than you would actually need in terms of volume, yet a lot of people are having problems after RODI systems creating that. One thing we've also noticed is on the inlet side of RODI systems, a lot of people are using this type of hose. Now this is easier to get around a job site, but what happens is you have a lot less volume that can go through this than a 3/4 or a 5/8 inch garden hose line. So the correct way to set up an RODI system on a job site is a length of garden hose coming from the water supply into the RODI pure water system. Then from there you want a 3/8 line on the output, and then you want as minimal amount of pole tubing as humanly possible, because this is where all of your volume is lost. So if you have 300 feet of pole tubing on a job site coming right out of your RODI system, you can expect that you're going to have low flow. If you have a long run of 3/8 and a short run of pole tubing, which is 3/16 ID, you're going to have much better performance at the brush, which is where we want the water. Better flow at the brush means faster cleaning times, which is the idea behind the rinse bar, right? So if you have the correct setup on the job site, you're going to be much better off. Now, there are job sites where even if you do the correct hoses and the correct lengths and all these types of things, what's going to happen is the water supply pressure is very poor. So that's when you're going to have to look into getting a boost pump. And there's a lot of boost pumps on the market. There's inexpensive boost pumps for irrigation sprinkler systems that you can buy right off the shelf at places like Lowe's, and those will boost your pressure, 40 psi or so coming into your RO system, and then increase that pressure and volume coming out and help with that as well. But most of these issues that we're seeing are folks that are running inadequate volume out of their water system and trying to get long runs to their poles. Now, if you're running DI only, it really doesn't matter nearly as much if you're only trying to run one operator, because you've got a lot more volume than an RODI system. So you're able to put a lot more volume through a 3/16, creating a lot more pressure than the guy next door running an RODI system, which operates at a lot lower water volume pressure. So thought I'd point these ideas out in terms of hoses, and hopefully this tip helps you on the next job site you're at where you have an issue with water pressure. Thank you very much.